Putting together a monthly budget doesn't have to be an exercise in frustration. I'll show you how I did mine coming up next. Welcome back to Ready Budget Go. On this channel, we talk about cash budgeting, saving money, and working toward our financial goals. If that sounds like something you're interested in, please consider subscribing. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps the channel a lot. If you enjoy the video, please be sure to hit the like button and leave a comment down below. Today, I'm going to show you how I put together my November budget. November is what I call a danger month because not only does it have some big holidays, but it also has Black Friday and it has 5 Fridays in it. And Friday is the day that I pull my spending money for the week. So it's especially important this month that I have a plan to match income to expenses. Let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to put in my paychecks for the month. And I get 2 of them. I get paid on the 15th and I get paid on the last day of the month. So each of those will be about $3,000. If you saw my annual budget video from last week, you'll know that I put in $2,500 a paycheck for next year. And that's because I plan on contributing a lot more to my 401k than I am this year. But for now, that's what they are. And then I also have a cell phone reimbursement from my company, and that's $100 a month. So I am going to put in the cost of my cell phone service and the phone hardware, but I'm also going to factor in the reimbursement. So here we have about $6,100 worth of income. As I said in the annual budgeting video, if that sounds like a lot, it's going to go by real quick. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to fill in all my bills. And this is from an exercise. So I did this exercise last month and I didn't film it. So I'm porting those over. And these are things that I pay every single month. And then once I have all of those plugged in, I'm also going to add in any one-time or annual expenses that are coming in this month. So I'm going to do that and I will be right back. Okay, so now I've plugged in all the numbers for all of the bills. Some of these, like I was saying, are regular expenditures that come out every single month. So this is things like rent, utilities, my transit pass, some subscriptions, and various other expenses. Here we've got electricity, we've got the phone, we've got prescriptions, we've got internet. And then down here at the bottom, I've also added in sort of the outliers or things that are coming in this month but aren't necessarily recurring monthly expenses. And I have a doctor bill from a visit that I had a couple of months ago that I just got. And then I also have an annual fee coming up on my credit card. Now, as I explained in my previous video where I went over the annual budget, the annual fee for the credit card is high. I mean, it's an expense. However, I get a lot more value out of that card than what the $650 cost me. And because I don't have any debt, I can do things like this. So the annual fee that I spend of about $650 is going to return to me on average about $1,000 to $1,200 worth of value this next year. And that's on things that I would have spent money on anyway. So I see this as something that I want to do, something that makes sense for me. If you are carrying credit card debt, or if you are revolving a balance month to month, then having a card with an annual fee isn't going to make any sense. You will pay far more in interest than the value that those rewards will return to you. So now that I have all of this, I'm going to total up the total at the bottom, which is $3,947.17. So out of that $6,100, about 2/3 of it is already spent. And that's before I pay for things like food. That's before I do any saving. Well, I've got a couple of savings in here for my emergency fund, but it's before I decide if I'm going to put anything extra into savings. And because this is a 5 Friday month, and that's when I take out my money, I'm not going to plan to do a whole bunch of extra saving, but I'll see if I can get a little bit in there. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my wallet, which are my weekly expenses. So here we have the 1st, the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, and the 29th. And those are all the Fridays in November. And each week I take out $200. So I'm going to write that in for each of these. Now, I don't actually take all of that money out. I go to the ATM and I withdraw $100 a week or $200 every 2 weeks or however it works out. And the other $100 I leave in there because that's money that I mostly spend at the supermarket. And at the supermarket, I use a credit card to earn rewards and then I pay it off. Usually, I end up sending in several payments to the credit card every month on paydays or just whenever the balance starts getting to a point that it makes me uncomfortable. I'll just go in and pay it off. So I keep $100 in cash. That's for things like if I go out to eat, or if I have something come up that I just need to spend money on, that's what that goes to. And then at the end of the week, or however often, I will either deposit the rest or put it into savings challenges, or I'll take out less the next time and I'll move the remainder over to savings. And I'll show you how that works later on in the month. But for now, that's the plan. So that's going to be $1,000 this month. Stockpiles, also known as sinking funds. This month, I'm not doing much with that because I haven't really planned for that this year. Come next year, I'm going to start assembling a list of what I want to start saving up for and or stockpiling, and then I will have those buckets at the ready. But for now, the only thing that I am going to put money aside for is going to be Black Friday, and I'm going to do that out of the first paycheck, which is on the 16th. And I'm only going to do $150. I'm going to really try to rein it in this year, and we'll see how I do. And then also out of that paycheck, I am going to put $900 toward my Roth IRA. I am behind in funding it this year. I like to usually have it funded by around August, September, just so I'm not racing at the end of the year or putting in contributions for the previous year in the following year. So, for example, if you have a Roth IRA, you can contribute to it for the 2024 limit in 2025 as long as it's before tax day. And for me, I just don't want to. I don't want to be trying to fund 2 years worth of Roth IRA in 1 year. So I'm going to try to get it done before this year. And I've got, I think, about 2,500 left to go. So I'm not sure if I'm going to make it, but for this month, I can at least put 900 in, or at least plan to put in 900. So that's the total there. And then I'm going to plug in all of these numbers down here. So we're going to do 6,100. Bills was 3,947.17. Wallet 1,000. Stockpiles 150. And savings and extra debt 900. That leaves me with a projected remainder of $102.83. Now, it's not a zero-based budget. There is a buffer or a slush fund or a leftover or whatever you want to call it here. And I'm okay with that because I think, for me, if I try to plan this down to the penny, I'm always going to end up moving things around. And then for me, it just gets a little bit chaotic. So I'm going to leave a little bit of a buffer here. If I don't end up using it, then I'm going to throw it probably into my Roth IRA. But it's there just to make sure that I've got everything covered. So that's the budget. At the end of the month, or as the month goes along, I'll start plugging in numbers. And in fact, some of these I can already do because I'm filming this on the 2nd, and a lot of these expenses have already come out. So for example, the rent was as predicted because I'm on a lease, as was the water, sewer, garbage bill, and Orca. So Orca is the transit pass, and what I do is I keep $100 worth of value, and then whatever I need to put aside to make it up to $100. So I was at about $76 when the month started, so I put $25 in. Renter's insurance $1067, that doesn't change. Savings and emergency fund, that came out, that was $200. And iCloud just came out this morning, that was $299. And I paid the doctor bill, $234.46. So all of those are done. The next scheduled thing that I have coming out is my subscription to Max on the 5th for $11. And when that happens, I'll revisit this and I'll plug it back in. I haven't decided if I'm going to do a weekly update on this yet. I probably will, just to make sure that I'm staying on track throughout the whole month and show you how it goes and kind of give you a play-by-play as the month goes along and see how we finish. But that's the budget overview. And next, we'll talk about how I'm going to allocate all of the different cash amounts. So one of the tools that I use when I'm putting together my budget is a subscription tracker. And this is the one that I made, and it lists everything that I subscribe to that comes out on a monthly basis. Now, one of these, Rocket Money, I've already canceled. And I did that because I think, well, I'm going to be doing this on paper, so I don't really need to pay for the Rocket Money subscription anymore. So that I canceled, and that's not going to come out this month. But everything else will. And this is something where if I cancel something, I note it on here, and then I know when I put together my budget for the next month not to put it in. And if I subscribe to anything else, I add it here, and then I refer to this sheet when I go back and put in my budget for the next month. So it's a handy tracker for subscriptions and will keep me on track for those recurring expenses. So here's my cash allocation chart for November. And as you'll remember from the monthly budget, I allocated money to my wallet and to stockpiles or sinking funds. For the wallet, I do $100 for groceries every week and $100 for fun and miscellaneous. For both of these, I allocate $200, but I only take $100 out of the bank in cash. The grocery money stays in there. I put it on a credit card and then I pay it off either at the end of the week or when I get paid usually. And I do this every month just to make sure that I am planning for what I'm actually going to use that money for. The wallet doesn't change much. The only thing that changes is based on how many Fridays there are in the month. Stockpiles, again, for this year, I just have the one for Black Friday for this month. And starting in 2025, I'm going to start working towards saving up for other things, like is it a vacation or maybe a move, a house, what have you. But for now, Black Friday is the only one I've got, so that makes this really easy. But at the same time, I still like going through it every month just to make sure that I'm keeping on track and that I'm putting the right numbers into my monthly budget spreadsheet. This next sheet that I use doesn't really impact my monthly budget, but it's a recurring bill tracker, and I use this to track things that tend to fluctuate from month to month. A lot of my bills are steady, so I always pay the same amount in rent, I always pay the same amount in renter's insurance, the subscriptions are all pretty much the same, but this is Conservice, which is my utilities, or Conservice. I always say Conservice. And this is the water, the sewer, the garbage, the pest control, the common area electricity, anything like that for my apartment building. And I get a bill every single month. And as you can see, the numbers here vary wildly. So the highest that I've gotten was $242.06, and the lowest was $189.89. That's a swing of over $50. So that's meaningful for my budget. I have lived in this community for 2 years, so I've set these side by side, 1 year comparing to the next year. And I just note how much they've changed month over month. And I look to see, okay, what can I expect from one month to the other? As it turns out, who knows? I think it depends on how many days there are in the month, when the bills fall. And then, of course, you have the usage and you have the change in rates. So it's kind of all over the place. I was hoping that I could use this as a guide for this year to see how close things are going to be. And to a certain extent, in some months, they were pretty close. Like here in June, it was only off by 79 cents. But the following month in July, it was off by $20. So it's not, it's for prediction, it's not as useful as I thought, but it's still at the same time, I think it's a good reference to keep track of it just to make sure that I'm at least planning for, okay, what could the highest be and when do these tend to go higher versus lower based on the season. This is my monthly cash flow tracker. And this is what I use to keep track of what's coming into and going out of my bank account. At the beginning of the month, I write my balance that's in my checking account, and then I take out all of the different expenses. Because it's early in the month, I have only the three. So the rent has come out, the savings transfer to my emergency fund has come out, and my first ATM withdrawal for this week and next week. So this is for November 1st and November 8th, those 2 Fridays. I just went and took that out in one lump sum. I haven't gotten any deposits yet. The reason why this is so high is because I came into November with my October 31st paycheck, which pays the November rent. So for rent, I'm spending the October money. I will get a paycheck at the end of November that will go to December rent. But I use this just to make sure that I'm keeping up with my checking account, that there aren't any surprises, sort of like a check register. But I just want to make sure that everything that is either coming into or going out of that account is accounted for. This isn't all of my expenses. This is only what's going on in my checking account. Credit cards and other payment methods I track separately, and I'll show you that next. So this is my monthly expense tracker, and I've already got several things filled out because we're already on the second. Well, we're only on the second, but I've had a lot of things come out already. A lot of things come out on the first. And so I've accounted for all of those here, as well as all the incidental spending that I've had so far. So I've gone out to eat a couple of times. I did the grocery shopping once. I paid that doctor bill that I mentioned. And I also had a couple of holiday expenses. So these are gifts that I bought for family members for Christmas. So I've already kind of blown the budget a little bit because I didn't plan for them. But what I'll probably do is either take those out of the Black Friday stockpile, or I will cash flow them because I always budget for less than what my paycheck's actually going to be. And these are within that buffer. I also have that buffer or slush fund that's kind of the remainder, and those could come out of there. So there's going to be surprises every month, and I just want to make sure that I have um, an accurate record so that if I'm burning down those excesses, if I'm burning down the stockpile, or if I'm burning down the remainder or the excess from the paycheck that I didn't include as income, that I know that that money is starting to deplete and I can rein in the spending. Or if I know I'm going to go over, I can start looking for a way to cover it with future income. Or if it's really an emergency, that I start pulling money out of my emergency fund or slow down my savings rate while I weather the storm of whatever's going on with the budget. So that's the monthly expense tracker. My goal is to keep it to one sheet. If I need to print out another one, I can, but we're going to really try to keep it to one. Based on how much I've already spent, that might not be possible, but we'll see where we get at the end of the month. The next sheet I'm going to show you is the month-end review. And we're pretty far away from the end of the month, but I've already started filling in some of the numbers here from the budget sheet. And I do this so that it's ready to go when the month ends and I'm looking back at the month and figuring out, okay, where did I meet my targets? Where was I off? And then evaluating what went well, what can I do better, and anything that came up that I need to remember for next year. So for example, if I get a surprise bill in November that I didn't plan on, I'm going to write that in here. And next year, when I'm putting together my November budget, I will refer back to this one and see, oh, I got surprised by a bill for let's just say a software subscription. And that was $80 that I hadn't planned on. And so that is something that I'll put in here. I'll update my annual budget, I'll update my other sheets, and I'll be better prepared for it next year. So again, we're pretty far away from this. I will show you me filling this out at the end of the month once we get there and I'm doing the evaluation. But just to let you know that it's the last sheet I'm going to show you is a periodic budget recap. Now, I would probably do this about once a quarter, and this isn't something that I think I will do this quarter just because October's already done and I don't have a budget closeout for October. But it's a really handy way to see, okay, how are things trending throughout the year? You know your yearly goals, and then it's how close are you to meeting those, and are you getting off track, or do you need to make adjustments? So the periodic budget recap kind of looks back over the past 3 months or 6 months, however often you want to do it, and you put in all of the totals for your income and your expenditures, and you just see, are you on track? Are things matching up with what you expected, or has life taken a turn? Because life is full of surprises. And that's one of the things that you'll want to account for here is what threw you for a loop, and how are you going to pull things back to getting on track if you do find yourself drifting. So again, I'm probably not going to do it for myself for this quarter, but it's something that I intend to use next year as I start really getting on track with the budgeting. I want to thank you for joining me as I put together my budget for November. If you like these worksheets, they're available for download in my Etsy shop. The link is in the description. Again, if this is the kind of content you enjoy, please subscribe, share with your friends, hit the like button, and leave a comment down below. I'll be back soon with another video, this one on savings challenges. I hope I see you there. Take care.